Vaccine candidate has shown an average efficiency of 70%, rising to as high as 90%. The vaccine candidate has been developed along with the University of Oxford. One dosing regimen showed vaccine efficacy of 90% when given as half a dose, followed by a full dose a few weeks later. Another dosing regimen showed 62% efficacy when given as 2 full doses at least a month apart. The combined analysis from both dosing regimens resulted in an average efficacy of 70%, even though the AstraZeneca's vaccine candidate shows lower efficacy than Moderna and Pfizer's candidates. It, of course, has its own advantages. The vaccine candidate is said to be cheaper and easier to store. Reports also say that it can be transported to every corner of the world. The UK government has already ordered 100 million doses of Oxford vaccine candidate. This would be enough for a population of 50 million people.
Intriguingly, it has an overall efficacy in our trials of 70%. But when we look into the data a bit further, in the 2 different dosing regimes we used, one of the dosing regimes has 90% efficacy, and the other one has 62% efficacy. And the higher efficacy regime is better tolerated, and also there's a hint that it may have an impact on asymptomatic infection and therefore possibly transmission of the virus.
This particular vaccine candidate is a genetically modified common cold virus that is used to infect chimpanzees. Now, it has been altered to carry the spike protein. When a human body will be injected with the vaccine candidate, the immune system will consider it as a threat and fight against it. When the immune system comes in contact with the real virus, it will already be prepared by this point.
Governments will be purchasing this vaccine and making it available to the populations of those countries, but also Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunisation, will be supplied with vaccine, and they can make vaccine available to low-income countries. The vaccine is not very expensive to manufacture, and also no profit will be made during the pandemic period, which also helps to keep the price of this vaccine very low.
We believe the least expensive COVID vaccine available going forward. Now, we have also achieved what has been quite remarkable, which is a manufacturing scale, not in the millions or the tens of millions, but in the hundreds of millions. And today, just one of those manufacturers has 100 million doses ready to be used, and that number will grow over the coming months. And the target over the next year is 3 billion doses to be provided for the world.
UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has hailed the AstraZeneca vaccine candidate breakthrough, calling it fantastic. But he also said the checks are still needed. CEO of the Serum Institute of India, Adar Poonawalla, has also hailed the development, said that he was so delighted to hear that a low-cost, logistically manageable vaccine candidate would soon be widely available. And for more on this, our correspondent Ollie Barrett joins us live from London. Thank you so much for joining us. AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine candidate has shown an average efficiency of 70%. Could you begin by telling us a little bit about this vaccine?
Yeah, the crucial thing to remember when it comes to that efficacy rate is that there are various ways that the dosing has been carried out, which might mean that actually it can be much more effective than 70%. The way that 70% figure is arrived at is effectively an average of 2 different ways of dosing this virus. The first is that patients are given a full dose and then later on a second full dose, and that came out as 62% effective in the trials for this Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine. But, and it appears to have been reached almost by mistake, there was another way of giving out this vaccine to patients that received much better results. Patients given half a dose at first and then a full dose a few weeks later, that registered 90% protection levels among patients. So if approval can be won from regulators to dose the vaccine in that way, then we may well have a vaccine that is actually 90% effective. The further good news, if that is the way forward, is that of course means, since you're only giving half a dose the first time round, you actually need fewer doses overall to vaccinate large parts or the entire population. So certainly good news in terms of the way that the dosing might be carried out and what that might mean for efficacy.
All right, and of course checks are still needed, but if the vaccine is said to be cheaper and easier to store, when can we expect the rollout of this vaccine?
Certainly here in the UK, there is hope that some of this vaccine can be starting to be delivered into patients by the end of this year. In December, the National Health Service in the UK is on alert, on standby, to be ready to start vaccinating people from the start of next month. It may not happen quite that quickly, but if approval can be won in the coming couple of weeks or so, then that does raise the possibility of some doses of this vaccine being delivered and administered to patients here in the UK, but also elsewhere in the world before the end of this year. The bulk of the rollout, though, is likely to happen in 2021, in the first part of 2021, and Oxford-AstraZeneca say that they can manufacture 3 billion doses of this vaccine for the world to use over the course of next year.
All right, Rory, thank you so much for joining us with all those details.